कैवल्य क्लीं कैवल्य क्लीं कैवल्य क्लीं कैवल्य
Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam. This is a special series of the Kaivalya Marga classes. On each of these 9 days, we'll dedicate some time towards taking the baby steps in understanding these magnificent centers of consciousness that we begin to understand as residing inside our bodies. Let us mindfully engage in this session and use this as a matter for deep learning and deepening your own spiritual practice. Let us begin the class with 3 ohms. Offering my prayerful salutations at the feet of my beloved Sadguru. I'm here to offer some insights, most of them from my own personal experiences and practices. So that you can derive some lessons from this and perhaps use them in your own practice. What I'm going to talk about in the next few days on chakras and the Kundalini and the practices around it are very simple, basic steps, many of which you probably are aware of already. However, none of these are objective in nature. Please be aware that Kundalini is a very subjective, personal experience into one's own realm. The path, the experiences, the journey may be very different from one soul to the other. What I'm doing here is merely sharing my experiences. First of all, to tell you that the path is beautiful, the journey is amazing, and the revelations and the expansion of consciousness, to me, is no longer a myth. It is a matter of experience. And it is my ardent desire and prayer that every one of you who listens to this, who are in this path of seeking the absolute truth and experiencing that, will draw some inspiration from these classes or lessons. These not meant to teach you that this is the only way, this is the right way, and somebody else is wrong and somebody else is correct. I'm never going to get into that, because I feel everyone has discovered this path through the Kundalini in their own way. There is so much material now available than it was in the 80s when I was in Baba's ashram desperately looking for answers. And everything kept pointing to practice, practice, and practice, and practice, and practice, and practice alone. So after listening to these classes, beginning from today and all the 9 days, you could get more theoretical, you could do more research, you could do more research on internet and gather more information and more evidences and so on, and draw charts and figures and all of that, and compare and contrast and all of that. But none of that will take you to where you want to go, if you want to go. So I don't want to give you a wrong impression or leave you with a fancy impression that just listening to these classes will somehow transport you. Everyone has to work very hard. If it was so easy that a few weeks or a few months of practice will somehow open consciousness and doors and we will experience and everything will be nice and dandy, it's not so. It is not an easy path. It is a difficult path, but it is not a dangerous path. As you may have heard many gurus say that. It has not been a dangerous path for me. So I speak from my experience. It is not something to be afraid of. It is a path of awakening, as simple as that. The journey is perhaps faster. It again entirely depends on divine grace and on your own effort and so on. The journey is spontaneous. The experiences are spontaneous and powerful. And they may startle your perception of reality, if you will, and shake you from that. And that may be beautiful, that may be uncomfortable. But to me, it has never been dangerous. I owe it to the practice of Hatha Yoga. So let me begin this before I get lost in my own thoughts, because talking about this is the very first time I'm actually venturing to do this. So my mind is all over the place. But I have made some points to keep me focused more than you. So we start at least the basics and do justice to what you can take home after today's class. What can you, if you are interested, bring into your practice? So let me go to play a little hide and seek, and there I am again. Go into the slides. Kundalini Shakti. Kundalini Shakti. A word that has mystified so many people for so many decades, if not centuries. Kundalini. Kunda means a pot, a bowl, if you will. The region of our hips is like a bowl that holds the base and the spinal cord and the brain on top. So it's almost like it's a support system. It's a container, a vessel, if you will. Kundalini is therefore the energy that is there lying inside the pot. Laya is lying. That's a simple way of understanding. Laya, lying. right? There is an English word that is drawn from Sanskrit at some point in the course of human history of human languages. So Kundalini is that which is lying dormant in the kunda or the pot. It is predominantly feminine in nature. Now, how can energy be feminine or masculine? This is simply at the level of our subconscious, unconscious belief systems that is so deeply embedded, right? It has nothing to do with the actual energy itself. The actual energy is energy. There is no masculine and feminine about it. It could be because of my upbringing and the culture, and I largely believe it is, that we from childhood prayed to Shiva and Shakti. Shakti became the feminine energy principle. Shakti was understood as the energy that manifests in the universe. Shakti was taught to me as lying dormant within us, and we awaken the Shakti. So Shakti was always a feminine energy. So I can't, for any reason, think beyond that. And so it's possible that I've always understood Kundalini as a feminine energy. And it doesn't matter. If for some reason some of you might feel it's more masculine to you, that's perfectly okay. If that's what you feel deep within. Because in your deepest meditation, you will feel her guiding you, holding your hand and taking you. So at that point, for me, it was a feminine energy, a presence. An angel, devata, if you will. So that is one side of the one part of the equation. The other part is Kundalini herself, and I'm going to refer to her as this energy as she is the dormant Shakti that needs to awaken into that Shiva consciousness. Shiva is an energy that is potent, a powerful energy. But by himself, Shiva is unable to enjoy himself. How do we understand this? There is truth, there is consciousness, and there is bliss. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat is truth, Shiva. Without consciousness and bliss, how do you know truth is? How do you know the is? Who knows the is? How does the is know of the is? You understand what I'm saying? So Shiva exists, but he needs Shakti to tell him he exists. For that consciousness to reveal itself to itself, there is Shakti. Without Shakti, Shiva is practically non-existent. So truth, then there is consciousness. Shakti is that consciousness that enables truth to be truth. The very fact that you have Asi, Tattvam Asi, is, that is there is a consciousness that is aware of the truth. That consciousness is the truth, but the consciousness is aware of its own truth. I'm running out of words here because there is really no way to explain it, but I hope you get what I'm saying. Truth, awareness, consciousness. So consciousness and awareness is the Shakti. Without that truth, does it exist or no? Who knows it? Does the truth know it exists? It wouldn't. So Shiva is considered dormant. Shiva is considered practically the consciousness of Shiva, the Purusha, if you will, is considered practically of no consequence without awareness, without consciousness. So Shakti comes with Shiva. So Shiva and Shakti are inseparable, just like Sat and Chit are inseparable in the ultimate experience. You are the experiencer, you are the experiencer, you are the experience, and everything. Shiva and Shakti have always one thing. It's not two separate things. Just for us to understand, we rip them apart, if you will. But it is the same. Truth and awareness go together. If there is no awareness, then truth has no meaning. If there is no truth, has no meaning, because what is awareness of what? Awareness of something's awareness of truth. So without Shakti, Shiva doesn't exist. Without Shiva, Shakti doesn't exist. These go together. And the understanding, the realization, and the experience of Shiva and Shakti is Ananda. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Ananda is the experience of truth and consciousness. Ananda is not, I mentioned this in other classes as well, Ananda is not joy. The joy that you and I experience through the senses, the joy we get when we hug our child, the joy we get when we are with our beloved, the joy we get when we listen to a beautiful song, or all of that are small trailers, small little tidbits, sparks, if you will, of this beautiful glow of Ananda. That is far, 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 far more supreme. So this is considered bliss. The only English word that can explain Ananda is bliss. But Ananda, there is A in the beginning, A in the end. It's almost like completely infinite source of unending happiness. The joy pours and pours as long as Sat and Chit are together. The moment we separate them in our ignorance, then this Ananda goes away. So Sat Chit Ananda, therefore, Sat and Chit is Shiva and Shakti. And Ananda is the result of that Shiva Shakti union, which is always is together. We are perceiving it as separate, and that's why we are here. You and I are here in this forum, in this lifetime, going back to that state of union, searching for the ultimate Ananda, right? That is why experience matters to many of us in this path. But experience by itself has no meaning without understanding this. So what is Kundalini Shakti? Kundalini is that consciousness going back towards the truth. Consciousness joining towards the truth. Consciousness being aware of the absolute truth. And the truth being aware of itself through consciousness. In other words, Shiva merges into Shakti. Shakti merges into Shiva. That union of Shiva and Shakti results in Ananda. So Kundalini is that energy that you and I contain in our core, as the jiva, as the soul, as the river that passes through many, many, many lifetimes. We are going back towards the ocean to merge back into the Shiva consciousness. Now, so the entire idea of the Kundalini is understood. This theoretical concept of Shiva and Shakti becomes an experiential journey. A very beautiful journey. A journey filled with joy and let's keep it joy. That draws slowly as you get closer and closer to the source. It just fills you with joy. So Kundalini Shakti is that which is understood. So how does one experience this? How does this translate itself into an experiential nature? Our body is a microcosmic representation of the macrocosm. Microscopic representation of the macrocosm. This is a microcosm, macrocosm. So the truth that we think is out there is actually within us. There was a poet, and I think it is Khalil Gibran, I might be wrong. He said the secret of the sea is understood by meditation upon the dewdrop. The secret of the sea is understood by meditation upon the dewdrop. So in order to understand this universe, understand the creation, understand this whole process and fabrication of time and space and causation and all of this, the whole secret is to meditate on the dewdrop that is within. And once I understand this process within, everything outside becomes more and more and more clearer. I see the connection with everything outside. I see myself and everything outside as an extension of myself. Now, if you ask neurologists and neuroscientists, they will say the right side of the brain doesn't know limitations. It doesn't know limitations. It doesn't know where the this finger ends and another object begins. It will just see the connection. The right side of the brain has that kind of a impact. So imagine even at the brain level, you can see that there is a possibility to experience this. So when we begin to meditate on this dewdrop, that is me, when I begin to meditate on this dewdrop, I begin to experience through this limited tool. Using this limited tool, I begin to experience and fathom the Supreme Consciousness. So that is the Kundalini Shakti. Kundalini Shakti is the Jiva, is the soul, is the Atma, going back towards the Paramatma. Kundalini is a divine energy. So you and I are basically feminine in nature in that sense. Like I said, I'm using this word feminine. So the mother in me is me. But Sundar has become so aloof from the Jiva consciousness itself. So I've now built another level of ego. I became a pond rather than the river. I become a pond. I call this pond Sundar. I call it myself. And then I begin to understand, how do I experience being in the pond? I cannot. Then the river flowing nearby. The pond overflows and the water flows into the river. The river begins to guide. So it is Kundalini, is that Laya, is the flow, is the energy, the river that begins to go back to her source. So she guides this waters from the pond and says, come, I will take you. And then you merge. And at one level, you and your mother, you and the Shakti, you and this, I call this mother energy, because for me, when I've taken that attitude and approach, I've never seen danger. I've never seen anything close to what later in these days, last few years, I come across articles and I'm like, how come I never experienced any of this? So for me, it has always been the mother principle. So when she awakens, she guides you and she takes you and goes up. It's like, that's why I say that she, but that she and you merge. You merge. You become one with this divine feminine energy and continue your journey into Shiva consciousness. And then in that journey also there are many lifetimes. Okay? And it goes on across lifetimes. And you will realize how many lifetimes you have been through to even sit here and be open or willing or even consider this concept of awakening. It is impossible otherwise. Such is the orchestration of the universe. All right. Kundalini Yoga is the practice through yoga to consciously take this effort and seek this divine grace, invoke this divine grace and go towards the Shiva consciousness. Muladhara Chakra. So today, being the first night, Muladhara Chakra is where consciousness resides, this Kundalini Shakti, if you will. This divine energy lies potent, this divine knowledge, this divine wisdom, that everything that you see is you. This consciousness that we see is you and I. To understand that understanding has not come because that wisdom lies dormant. Where does she lie? She's lying dormant in the Mooladhara. So you see now, when instead of being intellectual, we are bringing poetry and emotion into this practice. When we call it she, we call it mother, and so on. So in the Mooladhara, we take a very reverential approach to tune into this energy. Let me now get to the practical parts of it, because that is the best way to understand. Just to sit back and say, okay, I want more information on Mooladhara, it doesn't get us anywhere. The best is to dive in and start practicing. And begin the practice with reverence and prayer. And automatically this divine energy will begin to pull you towards her and then guide you. Like, understand this analogy of the pond into the river, and the river will flow. Before I go to the deity and all the other points, I want to point out that Kundalini is not just about experience. When people say, I got this tingling in my spine, I got something in the base of the spine, what is going on? I don't have an answer for that. Because there was a time I used to get all those experiences and I would write to Baba, and he would come the next morning, or as he passed by, he will say, hysteria, mad fellow, you're just mad. All, no control, you're not practicing enough. So I would take the way I understood this, the way I learned it, is when these things happen, it just means that the body is unable, the nervous system is unable, because we are trying. The pond merging into the river itself is a big experience. Understanding that I'm no longer a pond, I'm going to be a constant flow of this river going up and down. That is what people perhaps call dangerous or scary, I'm not sure. But that's a new experience, and therefore the body has to be prepared to even understand that. And the nervous system has to be strong enough to appreciate that I'm no longer a pond, I am a river. And I'll have to keep flowing in and out. There's the energy constantly interacting with the universe. And so I understood those as my body's inability to contain this experience, this awakening. And therefore, it results in all this tingling in the spine and so on and so forth. So what happens when that happens? You go back into intense practice. Because without the actual transformation of consciousness, all these experiences of what does it mean by tingling in the spine? What does it really mean to you and me in our day-to-day life? How is that going to enrich nothing? I close my eyes, I feel something, and like, oh gosh, I felt something up the spine. And so what? So what? What does that mean? But if that changes the way I look at things, if the aha moment is accompanied with a knowledge that changes my perceptions completely, and my awareness of truth changes completely, then there is a meaning to that experience. And those kind of experiences are never simply limited to simple things like these. But these are good signs. Having said that, these are signs that something is happening, that your consciousness is beginning to break free. So in the Mooladhara, we approach this awakening with a prayer and understanding, so that we don't get caught in this jungle of experiences and experience seeking, and then we say, oh, I feel the thrill, and I felt a shooting pain, or I felt this, I felt that. All of that really doesn't make any sense. It just means that you have to go back and correct your practice, or go into more practice, or just go deeper into prayer, because there is nothing like prayer cannot achieve. When we go into, it's like going into a movie theater to watch a movie, and then instead of watching the movie, which is why you bought the ticket and you took time to go to, you enjoy the movie theater and say, oh my God, the theater is so beautiful. Look at those lights, yeah, fancy lights. Look at the curtain that's coming and opening up and closing or whatever. Those are so fancy. The seats are so fancy. Oh, this is so amazing. This is so fantastic. And you come out of the theater and somebody says, what happens to the movie? He says, oh, I don't know. I just slept off. The cushions, the seats were so comfortable, I slept off in the theater. You missed the whole movie, which is why you went into the theater for. Please understand this analogy as the basis of understanding the Kundalini experience. Because we pay so much importance to the experience. It's like paying attention to the theater. And the movie, the real reason why all this is happening, and the wisdom that is contained, we miss it. She comes and goes. We forget. We are fast asleep because we are caught in this, oh gosh, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, and all of that. So keep that in mind. What I speak sometimes may raise more questions than answers, but I am allowing the Spirit to guide me. What I found very beautiful in this practice is praying to an energy in the Mooladhara. If you have attended my satsangs and yoga classes and other things before, you will know the deity that rules the Muladhara Chakra is predominantly the one and only Ganesha. Ganapati. Ganapati or Gana Isha. Gana Isha is the lord of Ganas. What are Ganas? The impish creatures that are around Shiva. So these impish creatures, Ganas, Ganapati is again the pati of the Ganas or the lord of the Ganas. So what are these impish creatures? So in the Mooladhara, we hold, it is the innermost core. So looking from top here, if you look deep down, that is the Mooladhara. Okay, in these classes, let us, because I thought about how all I can approach this subject. There is just way too much. So let's take these few steps and just lay the foundations during these Navaratris, and we'll take it up for study. The study will never end, so bear with me. So when you look from here straight down, from the center of the head, straight down, Mooladhara becomes your innermost, the deepest core of the mind. So you don't look at it from the side, you look at it from top down. And that's why, just like you put your hand straight deep inside a jar of sweets to pick up the biggest laddu perhaps that is sitting deep inside, or a chocolate that seems to be the biggest one deep inside. So you put your hand all the way in, think of reaching out from here deep down. So the innermost core, the Mooladhara, the base, where this divine Shakti is fast asleep. In her bosom lies memories that we accumulate across lifetimes. All kinds of memories. All the impulses, especially the impulses, instinct, impish creatures, in other words, fear, the drive for sex and survival, the drive for procreation, the drive for all of this, the basic instincts as we call it, right? All of this gets stored across many lifetimes, and all our experiences are stored there. The higher emotions, the awakening, all those memories are stored in the heart. We'll come to that later. Those are not stored in the Mooladhara. So when we say cleansing the Mooladhara and allowing, get rid of the memories, we are talking of memories that are holding us back because they are in the dark. They are no longer required. So they're just sitting there. It's like, the clothes that you have not used for 3 years, 4 years, look into your closet. You'll find so many of them. Like, oh gosh, I didn't even know this raincoat was there. Or I didn't even know this jacket was there. Why? Because you're not even looked into that corner. But it is there. It is occupying space, right? So you can't get new clothes and put in because these clothes, you're not ready to let go. You're not even using them. They're absolutely useless. You're perhaps grown out of them, whatever it is. It's like that. So these are memories of experiences. We don't need these memories. That's why they're gone and settled into the Mooladhara. But what happens is they occupy space. In other words, they hold the consciousness back. We get caught in that jungle. And this jungle has become thicker and thicker and thicker. The undergrowth is so thick that there is no way for us to get out of this. So along with our other practices, like the bandhas and kriyas, we'll touch upon that. Along with other practices, the most important thing is you invoke an energy. That is the only way you can come out of this jungle. So on Ganesh Chaturthi, on the day of devoted to Ganesha, we talked about it a little bit. When you're in a jungle and lost, and you don't know how to get out of the jungle because it's so thick, what do? You come across an elephant, you ride the elephant. The elephant takes you out of the jungle. The elephant's energy is so powerful. So traditionally, according to certain tantras, which I learned later, I only understood Ganesha. I was told by a teacher, just work on Ganesha and that's enough. And I just worked and that was more than enough for me. But as I learned later, Indra also rides the elephant. So Indra is also a powerful energy here. Indra is also a powerful energy here. But he will awaken later. But Ganesha is the one that will take you. So Ganesha is not just a deity from some other dimension somewhere. We leave that aside. Let experiences open up to you, whether you get darshan of Ganesha or you dream of him and all of that. Let that happen to you individually. That's all purely individual experiences. There is no objectivity to all those experiences. I cannot tell you this is how Ganesha looks and this is how he will come and all. I cannot do that. I'll be doing a disservice. But Ganesha will come in a form, in the name, because we meditate upon him, we call upon him. So this deity begins to guide you. This energy begins to guide you. So there are specific frequencies or energies. There are specific deities, however you want to call them. Okay, New Age spirituality calls it frequencies, energies, vibration. But traditionally we call them deities, devatas. This devata, who is in the Mooladhara, deity, or the god of the Mooladhara, is Ganesha. That is why before beginning anything, if the Mooladhara holds the consciousness, you can't even think beyond survival. You're caught in that. That is why beggars and poor people who are caught in the Mooladhara, you go and help them, you give them food, you give them water and say, wake up. You don't tell them anything. At least provide them the basics so that their consciousness looks up and thinks of something other than when is my next meal coming? How do I do this? Where do I sleep? What do I do for survival? Survival becomes so important. We have gone through all of those lifetimes. If you and I are sitting here and we have a roof over our head, that means we have gone through worse times. When I say worse, not from an economic sense, materialistic sense, but from the point of consciousness, where we are completely caught up in the Mooladhara in many lifetimes, and then it evolves, evolution comes. So the deity that helps take us out of this is Ganesha. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Om Gam. Gam. Lam is the mantra, the Moola mantra of the Mooladhara. But when you want the Mooladhara to reveal itself to you, open the doors so you can go in and come face to face with these old clothes that you can allow them to go away, then you need Ganesha's energy to open. So let me use this language. You need Ganesha's grace. There is a grace involved at every stage. So it is okay to believe in this fancy god Ganesha. It's perfectly okay. But believe that this god is in the Mooladhara. That's all my request is. Think about it. Meditate upon him as in the Mooladhara. Then things begin to happen. And begin to chant, call upon him. Gam, Gam, Ganapati Nama, Gam, Ganapati Nama. The Gam brings gravity, weight, that begins to break through the forest, clears the region. So Gam Ganapataye. So when we do it again and again, it sounds like Gang Ganapati. So both are correct, Gam and Gang. When you say only once, Gam Ganapataye Namaha. When you do it very slowly, it becomes Gam. When you pause, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. When you do it repeated, Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha, Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha, Gang Ganapataye Namaha. So that sound of a bell ringing begins to hypnotize the mind. Is the that sound is what begins to hypnotize the mind and begins to invoke this energy, takes you into the Mooladhara to invoke this energy. You have to go and receive him. You have to go and awaken him. You can't sit where you are and say, you have to awaken, nothing is happening in Mooladhara. You have to go there. But that means you have to go into the jungle and open the door. I know this sounds very abstract. I don't know any other way to say this. So the mantra is Om Gang Ganapate Namaha. Om Gang Ganapate Namaha. Om Gang Ganapate Namaha. How many times should I chant? Should I do it morning, evening, night? All of these other questions that come up are mere ritualistic, traditional questions. You ask yourself. Today, as I sit in meditation, I want to ask myself, I want to go into the Mooladhara and call upon Ganesha. And just start calling upon him. Don't count. Just call upon him. And when the mind starts getting distracted and you can no longer contain it because it's not easy, then you reverentially say, Ganesha, I'm ending today, but I need your grace, and end the practice reverentially. You don't have to stick with a particular count. Trust me. But if you're not even at that level and you want to get into some kind of discipline, then numbers matter. Then you say, okay, 11 times, 27 times, 108 times, or 54 times, whatever number of times you want. A japmala, a rosary bead, japmala is 54 beads. I want to do it 54 times every day. I want to do it disciplinedly. So bring discipline. It's okay, perfectly okay. So there are practices. We will get into this more and more in detail. I'm just, like I said, there's so much to share. when is the best time to do the Mooladhara practice? So some of you are itching to start off and say Gang Ganapati Enama, when to do this. Now this is an important thing because, oops, sorry, what did I do? Oh, okay. I don't know. So this is an important thing. What is the best time? There is a best time in the cosmos to meditate in the Mooladhara, on the Mooladhara. And you're not going to like it. It is pre-dawn time. Pre-dawn is the time before dawn, before Brahma Muhurta. The darkest part of the night just before the horizon begins to slowly lighten up. There is no fixed time because time changes according to seasons, right? But the darkest part of the night, it's a pre-dawn time. So roughly between 3:30 and 5 in the morning, the darkest time. You look in the east, it looks as the same as the west. There is no difference. That is a dark, just before it begins dawn, it becomes very dark and then it begins to light up. So that the darkest part of the night is the energy of the Mooladhara. So this brings us into the rest of the color. Let me see if this goes into the next. Oh, here it is. Okay, excellent. So this brings us, let me put all this so I don't get, wow, look at that, how much I have to cover. I have great hopes when I put these points. It's easy to jot down points. Let's see. So anyway, it brings us to the concept of color here. People have asked me what color is the Mooladhara, or we have heard about rainbow colors. Honestly, I don't know about rainbow colors. I've never practiced it. It's a very newish, new age kind of a thing. I didn't realize, I didn't practice it at all. But for the longest time in Puttaparthi, for many years, I was practicing it on either grey or red. Because I thought elephant has to be grey. Sai Gita, I saw Sai Gita, the Sai Baba's elephant. And I would meditate on her as the Mooladhara energy. I would meditate on Ganesha as the Mooladhara energy. So it became grey. And then I was told Ganesha is red, and therefore I started working on red, picturizing a red elephant. It didn't make sense to me. I always liked the grey. It made more sense to me, riding a grey elephant and going out of the jungle, to help me visualize the whole process. And then we had a very beautiful interview. It was 2 Tibetan monks and me, and Baba called them inside first, and he came out and called me inside. And that was the only time I've heard him talk about this whole concept of the Kundalini. So I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I'm going to give you the gist of what he said through these classes. When I asked him, what is the color of the Mooladhara, he hit me on the head and he said, there is no color for chakras. There is no color for chakras. Understand and this beautifully, he said it in 2 minutes, but this is what caused the divine awakening once I understood what it was. Understand that all this entire energy of the Kundalini, of Mother Nature, everything is from dawn till the sun rises. Those are all the different chakras, and very beautifully Swami said, before dawn comes Mooladhara. The darkest part of the night, pre-dawn time, is the Mooladhara energy. That is when you invoke the Mooladhara. And he was talking more to the Tibetan monks, more for them. I say Tibetan because they looked like Buddhist monks, but they may perhaps have been Sri Chakra worshippers, I don't know. He said it is the darkest part. Why it is dark? Because the jungle is dark. Because you go into the depths of your own inner mind. And this chitta as he would refer to it, the chitta that has the vasanas from so many lifetimes, creates that darkness. It is an undergrowth, a deep jungle undergrowth created Okay, so in my own words, I compare that to the Amazon jungles. There are some parts where sunlight doesn't even reach the earth, I believe. So it's so dense. That is a kind of jungle we have deep inside. That is actually keeping our consciousness from going anywhere beyond a particular. So when we think I am free to do what I want, you're not really. Your subconscious mind is, your chitta, in other words, is actually controlling life, right? So we are not really free to do what we want. On top of that, we get influenced by external environments, and we borrow likes and dislikes from magazines and advertisements and so on. So we constantly pour more and more and create more of this jungle rather than freeing ourselves from conditioned mindset. So it's very dark. It's dark. The color of this, or the energy of this, color and energy go together here. That's why I put them one after the other. The energy and the color is of the pre-dawn time. The energy is very powerful. It's time to awaken. It's the rock bottom, if you will, and it's time to awaken. So you're going deep into, you put your hand inside to get the treasure at the bottom, and then that's it. You can't go any more lower than that. Then the only thing is whatever you grab, you come up, right? So when you go to the Mooladhara, it's the rock bottom, and then it begins to rise, right? So the energy and the color of Mooladhara, the way I've understood, the way I meditate, the way I practice, it's the darkest color. In that dark, when you meditate on the dark color, believe me, and when Ganesha appears, it is the most beautiful experience. So, think about it, meditate upon this. Like I said, I'm not saying this is what it is. This is what I learned, this is what I practiced. And I would get up in the morning and sit for this practice. And along with the energy of the rising sun, I would continue from one chakra to the other. So it would take 45 minutes on each chakra. It takes a long time for Kundalini practices. These are not half an hour practices, 1 hour practices. So don't tell me I don't have time, what do I do for half an hour? I don't have an answer for that. Let us first learn it, right? And then let us see how to slowly take baby steps. Then the divine will open for each one of us, opens doors for more practice, and maybe we don't need to practice as long. This is what I did. I had the time, I had the inclination, I had the interest, and I did it. So it may not be necessary for you all to do the same way. So the pre-dawn time, there are 4 petals in this chakra. In other words, these are not some things I've seen as petals. But what happens is the petals here are vibrations and the reality that you see from here. So this will bring us to an important concept here. Are the chakras inside you, or are you inside the chakras? This was the question Baba asked me. Are the chakras inside you, or are you inside the chakras? And then he said very beautifully in that session. So I'm throwing these ideas, think about these things, okay? And he very beautifully said, first, the light is in you. Then you realize you are in the light. And then you are the light. So are you in the chakra, or is the chakra in you? And Baba said, when the chakras are activated, first you meditate as the chakra inside you. When the chakras get activated and the door opens, then you are in the chakra. The point here is, reality that we see around us, the reality that you and I say we believe, we say this is real, but security is real. I have to provide for my family. I have to provide for tomorrow's food. And we build that, right? Otherwise, how do I survive? Without money, how can I survive? All of these assumptions that I've made around me, and I look around me, I see a reality. This reality that I see around me, I am inside a chakra. And it's that chakra that projects this reality around me. So the 4 petals of the chakra, as they would teach you in traditional scriptures, are that this reality has these 4 states of consciousness. awakened state, dream state, deep sleep state, and the meditative state. So that meditative state is the fourth petal pointing upward, opening to the next level. And there's another reality that presents. So you're not just caught up only in one reality. So our consciousness travels up and down. This pond tries to get into this. So don't think the petals open fully. So the opening of petals of the Muladhara reveals one layer of reality. Then when you incur Ganesha's grace and the Muladhara really begins to open, then many layers of these four petals open up. So in those layers you begin to understand more and more of previous lifetimes and so on. I don't know if I'm making even some sense, but let's see. Mooladhara opens. That opening is only one layer of opening. So in that opening you see this reality. Then when Mooladhara opens again, in other words, the next layer of Mooladhara opens, there is another layer of reality. So the four petals are four different layers of opening that are available in the Mooladhara alone. In the Mooladhara alone, these four layers of opening are not, and each layer of opening you become aware of these four states of consciousness. So it's 4 dimensions and 4 dimensions this way and 4 dimensions this way. Why am I saying this? Is when you enter into Mooladhara and if this is again grace, okay, when the grace comes and the Mooladhara begins to open, you're sucked into this vortex of another reality. It's like a time travel. You go into that and you actually begin to see things inside you. Your darkest places you're able to go through. So there does fear stop you or all that again? That's why I said there is a time in those places where you'll find, in my case, I found a divine energy guiding me. I call her the Kundalini. She guided me. She guided me through this. So there was no fear at all. Fear came at much later stage in one experience. I'll share that when the time comes. But at that point here, there was no there was no fear, and even now there's absolutely no fear. That when I go deeper and deeper and more layers open. So these 4 layers of opening are it takes years perhaps, but they begin to reveal more and more and more and more of the dense undergrowth. You begin to see the path out from this. You begin to go in and clear all that. So if you're attracted, for example, in Shiva energy, then inside the Mooladhara you will hold lifetimes of worshipping of that Shiva consciousness. It doesn't come across just in one lifetime. Many, many, many lifetimes, depending on how intense you are. So that's why I said earlier, you and I sitting in this virtual space and even thinking about this means there are many lifetimes that holds those memories are awakening again, and that's why you and I are drawing this into our consciousness. The fact that you're watching, you might think it's coincidence. It's not. It's something in us that is drawing us back, awakening. So that is grace. That is grace. There's nothing else but grace. The grace begins to open. That energy begins to open. I use the word obstacles here. The main obstacle is fear. And that is mostly 99%, as was in my case, it's imagined. It's only imaginary fear. There is nothing to be really afraid of. You won't go mad. None of that will happen. Provided you're living a lifestyle that is clean. In other words, eating habits are clean. There is discipline, and there is yogic practices that are involved in it. And that I'm saying it only because I practiced it that way. I don't know any other way. There are others who have not necessarily practiced Hatha Yoga, asanas and all, and they have also been blessed with such experiences. So you need to ask them how they did that. For me, it was when I would get those vibrations in the spine, I would deepen my practice, Hatha Yoga practice, to overcome that. And then comes a real awakening. That is what the layers of Mooladhara begins to open more and more and more and more. It could be just a flutter of the Mooladhara that's created this reality around us. and then another flutter that opens. So that's a very beautiful experience as it opens more. And when you come out, you become far more enriched. You become completely aware of your weakness, strengths, and exactly know how to maneuver your way. In other words, now you're riding the elephant. First it's a baby elephant, then it's a grown-up elephant, then it's a big mighty elephant that is now taking you out of the jungle. You're never doing this on your own. It is the grace of the elephant energy that is awakening and guiding you. The clarity comes, the perception comes. Without that, merely vibrations in the base of your spine means nothing. To me, it meant nothing. When Baba said hysteria, madness, and I accept that. I didn't like it that time because I felt it was insulting, because I was actually experiencing what does it even mean. He never explained. But that's the beauty of that. He made me work and understand more and more and more. So there is divine grace definitely involved, and there is no doubt about it. So there are many practices that we are going to talk about, and I'm just going to touch upon these because many of this we know already, right? I'm going to just touch upon these because these are all practices that we have to learn and start practicing. Just theoretically knowing about it is not going to help. So in asanas, predominantly 60% of your asanas should always be towards hip, opening of the hip, and it will be more or less. Without the hip, you won't do any asana poses. So hip opening routines especially become a powerful practice to begin to loosen this thick undergrowth. Literally begins to loosen the energy, because this is matter. It's connected to the earth element. Mooladhara is the earth element. So earth is solid matter. Consciousness is trapped in matter. It's in other words, I have identified myself with my body. So intricately identified that I'm unable to break free from that. So when Mooladhara begins to open up and release you, then you will begin to go beyond your body consciousness. Truly become aware that I'm no longer limited to my body. I can rearrange things in my body and things like that. So anyway, the point here is, hip opening routines begin to loosen that energy. Okay? So we spend a lot of time opening up the hip, flexibility of the hamstrings, the hip flexors, and so on becomes an important practice. Then comes the bandhas. There is a practice of bandhas. The main bandha is the Mula bandha. Mula bandha I've already talked about in other Kaivalya Marga class as part of the earth element. And when we come to each of these elements, we'll explore some of these practices again. So bear with me. So Mula bandha is where you hold the perineum muscle up and you pull the consciousness upwards. So Mula bandha is a practice that's used for meditation and everything. We talked about it already. The pranayama practice that you do here, because it is in the depths of the mind, there is a tendency for gravity, earth's gravity, to pull you down. So there is laziness, sloth, doubt, darkness, all of that is associated with this energy that pulls you down. To awaken from there and come up, you do what's called the Surya Bheda Pranayama. It's a very simple pranayama. You breathe in from both your nostrils and you breathe out from the right nostril. You breathe in from both nostrils. There are many variations. The simplest variation I'm teaching you, in the Surya Bheda itself, there are many variations. The simplest and the safest variation that every one of us can do without increasing blood pressure and all of that, because we may have those complications as well. The simplest thing is breathe in from both the nostrils. So keep your hands like this. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, both nostrils. Breathe out from the right. Breathe in from both nostrils. Breathe out from the right. The right side, breathe in from both nostrils, because I'm looking at my mirror reflection. So you breathe in from both nostrils and breathe out from the right nostril. So when you breathe out from the right nostril, the right side is the sun. You awaken the sun energy. In other words, you make yourself a little more active when it comes to Mooladhara. For Mooladhara opening, for Mooladhara practice, for meditating on Ganesha, you do the Surya Bheda Pranayama. Then what kind of meditation is good for Mooladhara alone? So when I said I started at 3:30 and went into different chakras, you change your meditation according to each chakra. So in Mooladhara, you meditate on the flame, because in the dark jungle, what do you want? You want light in that darkness. When you go into the deepest corridors of your mind, you need light, you need perception, you need clarity to see, to understand, not fear and doubt, right? So meditation on Jyoti meditation, flame meditation has an important principle here, and I think it is my belief that this is why Baba suggested Jyoti meditation as a meditation practice in general for all mankind, because in today's world, mankind is caught in this Mooladhara alone. The fear of survival and all of that is creating divisions and wars and violence. Violence is the negative quality of this chakra. So when we meditate on the flame, we get clarity of perception. Okay, you can take that flame, go through different parts of the body, everything you can do. Okay, that flame doesn't have to be in the base of the spine. Meditating on the flame awakens the mind from the Mooladhara. That is the beauty of this. So you can even keep a flame, a lamp in front of you and just focus on that lamp. It's called Trataka in yoga. You stare at it, close your eyes, memorize the flame in your eyes. Again, close it, again do it. So meditation practice, Jyoti practice is very helpful for Mooladhara. All these practices when we do, along with Om Gam Ganapati Namah and a very prayerful attitude, there is absolutely no danger. Trust me, there is no danger. You only invoke divine grace. There's nothing else. And then the Om Gam Ganapati Namaha is practiced inaudibly. Inaudibly, there is no sound. In Mooladhara, there is no sound. You're entering the unconscious, subconscious, if you will, to understand that. In other words, you're entering deep into the chitta. So there you have to just feel the mantra. Feel the mantra. So how does that happen? You first do it mentally. That's the only way. You do it mentally, then you'll feel an energy. Gang Ganapate, Gang Gan. That's why visualization helps. The elephant. That is why Ganesha, when you meditate on the form will invoke that feeling of this powerful elephant, benign, benevolent, powerful energy of Ganesha. So that mantra becomes inaudibly you're calling out to Ganesha. Right? That is how you practice the japa. So you do pranayama, you do that japa, and slowly allow that elephantine energy to become the light. Practice as the Jyoti. You develop this. With these elements, you develop your own practice. I am not going to tell you which comes first, which comes last. You think and say, how do I practice this? Because there is no right and wrong way. Please listen to me. There is no right and wrong way. Your way is the right way for you. If you have all these elements in place and you say, okay, now I'm going to bring these elements in my own way. I'm going to start with audible japa and then slowly go deep into the silence. Meditate on the flame and allow that flame to become Ganesha. That's okay. I'll say, no, I want to start with pranayama. Then my prana, I will take my awareness down. I'll meditate on the flame in the Mooladhara and allow that flame to become Ganesha. That's also okay. You can make flame into Ganesha. You can have Ganesha into the flame. Flame, Ganesha, Ganganapati Namaha. All these along with bandhas and the pranayama, all of this together, it doesn't matter which comes first, which comes last. It creates that energy, a powerful energy that will begin to lift your consciousness above the Mooladhara. You don't have to realize the Kundalini all the way to the Sahasrara. There's freedom from the Mooladhara. A mild opening of this, one of the layers of Mooladhara itself will free you from fear, free you from insecurity, free you. There will be a sense of peace that, oh my gosh, I'm being guided. This is amazing. Because when you are with a powerful elephant with you, you have nothing to fear. No other animal in the jungle will come and haunt you or taunt you or hurt you. They dare not. The elephant is there. The elephant will pick up coconuts and nourish you. The elephant will take you through that. The elephant does everything for you, right? It's a very timid, beautiful, powerful animal. So that true sense of peace and calmness will descend in the innermost core. The surface can be ups and downs. You'll get upset if you forget your watch somewhere or you lose $100. All of those are surface level. It will not affect your inner core. Your inner core will suddenly become very calm, like the depths of the ocean. So that is the Mooladhara energy. My dear friends, this is such an interesting subject, but I don't want it to be a subject where I can go talking and give you all these various ideas. Begin practicing. Maybe you just practice only with a japa first. Forget inaudible and all of that, right? Just practice the japa. Because you never know when grace will come and lift you up. When grace will open the door suddenly. It could be just with 3 japas of Om Ganganapati Namaha. You never know. Or it could be just with if you're not into japa and chanting, if you just want to meditate on the flame, go ahead, start with that. Ask yourself, which of these is going to be my favorite practice? And try them all. Try them out. Try this at 3:30 in the morning, the pre-dawn time, and see how you feel guided. And allow the divine to guide you. I have no other way to tell you this. But the divine guides you if you are sincere in your effort, if you are reverential and ardent in your prayer. Don't be pathetic in your prayers. In other words, oh, I'm so confused. I don't know when this is going to happen. Oh God, please help me. That is not even a prayer. That is too full of your ego and you're wallowing in your own self-pity. That is not prayer. So that's not the kind of prayer I'm talking about. Prayer is, I'm confident this is going to happen. Oh Lord, thank you. I'm so grateful for me being given this opportunity to explore. And the joy of chanting, the joy with no expectations, going into this playfully with an optimistic, reverential, beautiful mindset, that opens a mind to deeper prayer. Okay, so please understand. Don't take your confusion and go into Mooladhara. As I said, these are baby steps, so I hope I did justice, some justice at least, gave you some idea of what this chakra is. And hopefully we will continue understanding and connecting this to the Swadhisthana. We'll keep going back and forth in all these chakras as we add on to this. I'm just throwing open these practices, which we will follow up more as we study. As always, feel free to post your comments or send me questions. I'll see. I may not be able to answer your questions on Mooladhara in the next class because we are keeping these series as more as a lecture series, but I will definitely collect them, and we will see how we can address them as we go along. Just know that spiritual path is a path to joy and happiness and oneness and togetherness. My path is your path. Your path is my path. It's not separate. It's not a competition. It's the path to oneness. So one of us begins to experience this and others connect to that consciousness. All of us begin to experience that heightened level of consciousness. If you and I experience this heightened level of consciousness right now in this virtual space, it's because of that connection. Trust that connection, trust that oneness, and find joy in each other's progress. Helping each other progress is helping everyone and your own self, because that one self, that one Shakti is going back to meet with our beloved Shiva. On this holy night of Navaratri, the first night, I am grateful for being given this opportunity to share this divine wisdom in the way I have understood it. I know I've certainly not done justice, but I'm grateful for being given this chance to offer my 2 cents. Hopefully you found this class useful. Let's continue this journey of self-discovery together. Until we meet again, which is tomorrow, stay blessed, stay safe, stay inspired. Let's end the class with 1 Om and 3 Shantis. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.